guys. So I'm going to take you through the expectations for today. The first one you're going to do is your codes and conventions analysis of a blog, or sorry, not of a blog, of a podcast. So you're going to choose a life game episode, you're going to analyze it, and you're going to post it in a blog of about 250 to 300 words. And you're going to post that in the blog area. Make sure to make it public so everyone can see it. Then you're going to comment on 2 of your peers. Don't forget to do that. And read and see how other people interpreted it. That's going to help you a lot in your upcoming assignments. Okay, so your second assignment, you're going to do a digging deeper discussion post where you're going to analyze a podcast but you're going to present it in an oral format. So I have a video above about how to do that. So there's a list of questions you can consider, and you're going to be answering in about 1 to 2 minutes. And that again is going to be good practice. The assignment for today that's being evaluated, so this is the one that I'm going to be marking, giving you lots of feedback on, is your synthesis assignment, where you're going to use your life game episode as a model, and you're going to create a 2 to 3 minute podcast, and you have to include the conventions and codes of a podcast in your podcast. So it's not enough to just talk for the 2 to 3 minutes. You're going to have to use sound effects. You're going to have to use your volume and cadence. You're going to have to use pauses and all of the things that you've been learning about in terms of the audio format in order to put together a podcast that's compelling and engaging for listeners as well as informative. Okay, so to go back to the instructions, so you're going to communicate your understanding of how audiences might respond to the podcast that you listen to, depending on their life experience, background, and identity. So consider how that podcast might impact different people differently, right? So the focus is going to be at 2 to 3 minutes on the effect of the podcast medium on listeners, all right? You have to demonstrate skill in the use of sound to communicate meaning. So you might want to include some sound effects, have some things going on in the background, some music maybe. You're going to play around with volume of different things. You're going to make sure that you practice lots of times so that it comes together relatively seamlessly. And then you can record it in either an audio file or a video file and upload that to the Dropbox. If you do a video file, you don't have to include any visuals. It just might be easier for you to record a video and cover up the screen. But it's up to you how you record it. As long as I can view it or listen to it rather, then it's all good. Then once you've submitted your podcast, you're again going to do another reflection activity. So make sure that you don't forget to do that. You have to come back to the assignment after I give you feedback. So I will obviously not be giving you feedback tomorrow because you're going to hand it in tomorrow. But when you do get feedback on Wednesday, you're going to go back and complete the reflection part of the assignment. So in terms of the rubric, we'll look at the level 3 category. So I'm going to be evaluating, are you using media codes and conventions? So are you using the features, codes, and conventions of a podcast to communicate meaning with a considerable degree of accuracy? So that's a polished podcast where the sound effects and your vocal elements are practiced. It's going to include pauses effectively. It's going to include music effectively. You're not going to have one feature that's really loud and another feature that's really quiet. You're going to practice it a couple of times so it sounds like it is compelling. And the more conventions and codes you include, and the more insightful your use of how you apply them in terms of engaging your audience and persuading them, the better mark you'll get for your use of media codes and conventions. The second thing I'm evaluating you on is your listening skills. So it says discussion of source podcast displays use of listening skills to exact meaning with a considerable degree of effectiveness. So did you accurately represent the content of your podcast? Did you analyze it effectively and understand how it could have affected different audiences? Thirdly, I'm looking at, did you use your oral communication skills effectively yourself? So did you use your tone, your cadence, your volume, and your diction to communicate with a considerable degree of effectiveness? So are you enunciating your words? Are you mumbling or slurring your speech? those things would result in a lower grade, right? But if you're using your volume sometimes louder, sometimes quieter to reel in your audience, then that would demonstrate mastery, right? If you're using your pitch to engage your listener, or you're talking about something really serious, you're going to lower your voice, and really exciting, you're going to raise your voice, in terms of volume as well as pitch. And you're just going to keep everything as varied as possible, so you're just not reading off a script, which would be very boring and not engaging at all to listen to. Okay. The last thing that I'm evaluating for oral communication is your reflection. So I won't talk too much about that because you're going to come back and do your reflection after you get feedback. Your M1 mark is analyzing the media. You're getting a mark for analyzing the meaning of the source media text with a considerable degree of accuracy and insight. So do you understand the meaning of the podcast? That's very closely resembles O1, but O1 is looking at, do you understand the words that they said? And this is, do you understand how the other elements create meaning? And M3 is about how you produced your podcast. So did you use the features of media to communicate your opinion to an audience with considerable clarity? Okay, so are you using all the codes and conventions that we talked about, and using them to enhance the meaning of your podcast? If you have any questions about how you're being evaluated, this last one's again the reflection evaluation, so we'll skip it. But if you have any questions about how you're being evaluated, please send me a message in the discussion board and I will answer it there. This tends to be an assignment students do well on if you put the time and effort into practicing and thinking about how you're going to engage your audience. So write a script. It could be point form. That could be really helpful so you're not reading it, but practice it a couple of times. And insert what you're going to do in the script so you know like when to play music, when to lower the volume, when to all those things. Try not to have too much music and speaking overlapping because that can be a little bit distracting for your listeners, especially if the music's really loud. So try and fade in and out and maybe have things playing quietly in the background if it adds effect. If it's just distracting, it's just distracting. But play around with it and make a plan, and hopefully it'll come together really, really nicely. All right. Well, good luck tomorrow, and I hope you enjoy the media construction. Bye.